Nefarious by Dameon Thorn.
Hey guys, and welcome to Nefarious by Dameon Thorn. I'm Dameon Thorn, and on today's episode, we have Will Joseph Cook, who just released his new album, Every Single Thing. Welcome, Will.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to be here. How are
How's it
you?
going, man?
I'm very well. I'm just in my house in London at the moment. Just went to the gym. My endorphins are flowing.
What are
Everything's good.
you working out on right now in the gym? What's the area that we're working on?
Just sculpting the perfect Grecian physique.
Oh, is that what we're doing?
No, I've been cooped up all day, so I was just like I need to go and do something. So yeah, I had like an hour free, so went and sweated it out for a bit.
Okay, so on your song Bop, you mentioned that you're shy. How shy are you?
Well, Bop is a bit of it's writing from my teenage perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So in that track, I was kind of like playing with the fact that when I was like a teenager at a house party or something, you kind of overcompensate. There's like a bravado that goes with it. And then
Right.
I used to like go and like literally go into the bathroom or go into another room and take like 3 minutes to myself and then like recharge and let the nerves kind of flow out. And then I could go back into the party. So it's like a little reference to that.
So are you shy now, or what's the deal?
I wouldn't say so. No, I'd say like it's a thing that as I've got older, I've just been like, usually if there's something that is bringing out those feelings, and I feel kind of more drawn towards it. So if I'm like feeling shy, then that like pushes me to just go up and speak to the person or like say something. Otherwise, I just get annoyed at myself. It's kind of like a bit of a promise I'd made.
So when
To my,
did you even get into music? When did you start? Let's take it back. When was your first moment of realizing, okay, I'm gonna be a musician?
so I started playing guitar when I was like 13, but I'd had friends around me that were better players than me at school, and I just like gave singing a go because I couldn't play an instrument. And then, to be honest, it was both like I remember just it going down like really well among friends, like doing music and like impressing girls. So I think, as basic as that is, I think that was like what sparked the initial like interest as a teenager. And then like as I got a bit older and like songwriting became part of my life,
Mm.
around like more like 14, 15, 16, like it just became more of like an a tool that was just so useful in my life for just like getting feelings out. And I don't know, it just became a thing that I couldn't really live without. And then it just like took over, I guess.
So it
So
all
from when I was
started with
really
so it all started with impressing girls, and then eventually you realized that music can be music can be used for a lot more than that.
yeah, I think it was just like yeah, being cool, like having a thing, like I swear that's how most people's interests start out. It's like something that maybe you have like a natural inclination towards, and then if someone's like, "Hey, you're good at that," then like that's kind of what commits you to it. But I think obviously there's other things at play for me to be like 25 and still like
Were
giving
you
it a good
always
start with it.
interested in the arts, or this is something that just kind of happened? Or yeah, tell me about that.
Yeah, so my parents are both painters. So like I was definitely more like into visual arts as a kid. So I used to do loads of drawing and I thought that was my thing as a kid. Um, and then pivoted to music because I think music also just like offered a lot of um adventure and cool stuff with it. You know what I mean? It was like a way like I loved going to gigs, I loved meeting people at gigs, I loved like partying at them, and like the whole like social aspect of music is such an important thing to me as well, like the community of it. So yeah, I kind of started out just as like a drawing kid and then pivoted.
A drawing kid. Well, your visuals are very solid, and you have a really, really dope aesthetic. Can
Thank
you
you.
tell us a little bit how you crafted that?
Kind of it's So for like my music videos and stuff, they're like it's similar to how I would approach like production or like my songwriting style is that I always think that the most unique stuff comes from just blending your own personal tastes, so like not doing really like very obvious genre mashing, um,
Right.
but like more just like creating how you consume, so like there's a lot of different styles of music, and a lot of different visuals that are like really important to me, and part of me. So I feel like when it comes to like creating my own, I have to find a way to like meet in the middle. So my visuals are kind of like a blend of different like 20th century influences. Like I feel like there's a lot of retro influence in like
Hmm.
my looks and stuff, but it's not like super era specific. It's not like, oh, he's clearly just doing like a 70s things here, because there'll be like a bunch of like what I'll be wearing in the video, and the camera style we'll shoot on will be like late 90s, 2000s or something.
Right.
And
Right.
then
So would you
song will
say
be
that
like,
your background in art and just drawing and painting influence where you currently are?
yeah, definitely. I think it's just all like having a like a desire to like make some kind of creative statement with like who you are, and like what you make. So I think it's all, it's all cut from the same cloth, isn't it? It's just like you need to kind of express yourself and like carve some kind of individualism. And I think
Right. Right.
it's just like whatever tool you use for that is kind of,
So did
yeah,
you get into, I know you started playing guitar, but when did you start getting into recording and production? When did that start happening?
pretty much straight away. I was like, the only thing I was interested in was, I used to learn like YouTube covers of like other people's songs, but once I'd kind of figured out like a bunch of chords and like rhythms and things, the main interest was like, okay, well, how do uh I want to just write my own stuff. I don't want to play other people's. So I got like into SoundCloud really young and just used to upload. There used to be a like a very niche scene of like acoustic singer-songwriter stuff on SoundCloud. And I used to just get like kind of obsessed with exploring that and then uploading my own stuff and seeing like I get like 5 comments on a track and I would just be like freaking
Hey,
out.
5 comments is 5 comments, and that's how it builds. When did
Yeah, of
you
course.
when did
Well,
you release your first song on SoundCloud?
probably when I was like 13.
You
Yeah.
were 13. So this has been going on for a long time.
Yeah, yeah.
How did your family and friends feel about you pursuing a career in music?
I think when things became more like, you know, obviously like a career, uh, my parents were just worried that they were like doing the right thing because of I I signed a publishing deal when I was like 16, for like my writing, and yeah, I think like like any parent would be like you feel kind of you are responsible for like signing those contracts at that
Right.
point. So I think they were just like worried that they were doing the right thing by me, but I mean they're both self-employed painters, so like they don't they don't have a leg to stand on when it
They
comes.
they get the artist part of this whole thing.
Yeah, they can't tell me it's a bad idea because then their life would be a bad idea. So,
Right. Well, let's
yeah.
talk about this album. When did you start writing it?
So this album, every single thing, was started. I mean, there's like one song from like beginning of 2020, like just before the pandemic, but majority of the songs on it were all kind of finished and written in like a 4 month period of the like end of 2020 to the beginning of 2021. And then yeah, by like March 2021, I had all my ducks in a row. I had like a bunch of songs that I wanted to like go in and record. And yeah, the whole thing came together super quick. I mean, the actual recording process was only like 5 weeks. It was like super quick.
Oh, that's really short.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
It
really
was,
short. So you guys kind of knocked it out then.
yeah, it was kind of, it was a, I really enjoyed it, and like I'm gonna do that again for my next project. Like have a very specific set of time and go like geographically, like go somewhere and be like, when I come home, I'm gonna come home with an album. So I think that kind of like pressure is the wrong word because it has too many negative connotations, but just like I guess like creative limitation is like often really good, and like having like an exciting deadline to work towards. So
Right.
it was kind of a product of like of necessity, really, because it was still this was still like a pandemic album, really, that I was trying to record. And as a British person, I wasn't allowed to enter the US, and the US
Right.
where like my producer Matt, who's based in LA, like that's where he was. So we were working remotely, and it was just so exhausting, like doing everything over like a FaceTime call and like team viewer, like watching each other's screens and like bouncing out stems my end, sending them to him and him doing the same back to me. It was just like such a slow, laborious process that eventually snapped. And I was like, that's it, going to Mexico, like pack a studio and a suitcase. Mexico City was open. So like we could both get in there, you know, do all the tests and everything, finally get actually in a room together, and then just like bunker down in an apartment and like do all the pre-production there until like I was allowed to enter the US. And we
That's
finished.
amazing. How was that experience?
It
Just
was
being in a
great.
completely different place.
It's great. I think it's like super important, to be honest, on your for like, especially because I'd already written the album pretty much, you know, bar like a few lines here and there. I think to have like your surroundings change like renews your perspective on the music, for me at
Right.
least. So and you're just somewhere new and exciting, so all your kind of juices are flowing. You know, you're not stuck in your bedroom where a lot of like writing and production takes place these
Was
days.
this the first time that you gave yourself a deadline, or is this something that you always do?
No, this was the first time. Like, so I'd made two albums before, and one was again like a lockdown 2020 album that I put out, and then before that was like my very first record that I put out when I was like 19. And both of those experiences were like felt more like collections of songs over quite an extended period of time. So it's just like, here's what I've been making for the last, here's like the best bits of what I've been making for the last 2 years or something.
Right.
Whereas this was like, got this idea for a record of like songs generally about love and exploring like the like different angles and dimensions to that. And I want it to be like a hot 10 track. Got the tunes, we've got 5 weeks, like let's cut in on it. And I think going in that conceptual was like, yeah, completely new for me, and uh, really refreshing, I think. And I think you get a better album for it. Like it sounds more like an album, you know.
Well, are you in love?
Am I in love? I am, yeah.
That's amazing. A lot
Yeah.
of people can't say that. Congratulations to you, Will.
Thank you. Are you in love?
I am not in love at the moment. I am not in love at the moment. I would like to be in love.
Is it
This
easy?
world is really interesting currently. It's hard to find love right now. Congratulations to you.
Yeah. Is it easy to meet people
Is it
for
easy to?
you?
Absolutely. It's very easy to meet people in the metaverse. Very
Yeah.
easy. Yeah.
Is there a lot of
I had to
like
kick someone out of my world right now because he just jumped in because I forgot to put it on private. And I was like, sorry, bye.
get out? They could have been the one. That's the one
They
that
could
got
have
away.
been the one. That's what it is. They could have been the one, but who knows? How was dating for you before you were in love?
So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I was kind of like, I this is me getting super personal now, but
Yeah.
like that's what it's about. Um, so like I had like in 2019, I'd been with someone for like 5 years and then split up. And then there was like, yeah, like a good 6 month chunk or a 5 or 6 month chunk where I was like single. And it was kind of like the first time I'd been single like well, it was the first time I've been single as an adult. So yeah, I was just like enjoying it and like not putting kind of, I wasn't really even thinking about it, I was just like really enjoying like how much it kind of opens up the randomness to your social life. Like being
Right.
single is really, really fun if you have like the right perspective on it and you're not like pining for a relationship. I think because I was so done with it at that point, it was actually like a really, positive and good experience. And then the person that I'm with now was kind of in the same headspace, and we were like both not looking for a relationship or anything. But then I think when you kind of when worlds collide like that, and you're not neither of you are expecting to like date for any kind of meaningful length of time, then if you do end up doing that, it's usually a good thing. Well, I would hope so, because you weren't just like jumping on someone because you needed to fill like some emotional void in yourself, or like you just can't be alone or something like that. It's like you're actually just really connected with that person, and
Right. So this album is very loving. Would you say that this album is primarily inspired by your current love life?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the themes of it, I mean, there's like on the first like three, yeah, like the first three tracks of it are very much like they're kind of in the vein of like um kind of old school love songs, like people like singers like Chet Baker, like old jazz songs, or like old Elvis Presley songs, where there was this real sincerity to an earnestness to just being like, I love you, baby, like you're amazing. And then just
Right.
like writing this quite like just like poetic thing about how great someone is and how smitten you are. And I feel like that was like a style of song that I hadn't heard through a contemporary lens. And I was like, well, I'm feeling like pretty loved up, so I'd like to express like a modern take on a song like that.
Right.
And then some of the other themes in it were like Easy Undone is about kind of accepting and seeing the silver linings to my last relationship ending. The Feels is about like finding like remnants of like past relationship, like on your laptop, like finding a video of you hanging out together or something that you thought you deleted ages ago. And then
Oh,
like
that's the worst, when you find that old material and you're like, ooh, why did I go back and look at that?
yeah, when your phone does you dirty and it's like on this day 3 years ago, and it's like you and your ex, and you're
It's
like,
that involuntary Apple's like, oh, by the way,
yeah,
here's a really like there's a really bad haircut that you had, and here's when you're kind of overweight, and this is decide that they're going to bring out the worst years of your life to like
yeah.
present to you, like, okay, I remember that. I didn't need to see that.
It's so savage. But that song, The Feels, is like inspired by that kind of digital forcing of memories on you. And then
Mhm.
and then that like triggering, like getting back, like making the decision to maybe like contact that person and reach some point of closure. So like dealing with that kind of ickiness of like, oh, that was like a totally different person back then, like looking at yourself, that was like a different life. And
How would you say that you have grown in these past years?
how do I say I've grown? I'd say just, yeah, I think the normal, well, hopefully the common journey of like getting more confident as you get older. I think just like more sure of myself. I think I artistically used to limit myself because of other people's opinions. So like I would worry that my music would be like this album, for example. I know some people won't like it because they'll see it as like too sentimental, like too sweet. It's like trying to be cute. It's like not what. And for me, I think that's also just like wrapped up in maybe some like prejudices of like the genre of being like, I don't know, straight indie boy with guitar in the UK at least. It's like the like cuteness is not like an accepted like trait within that world, I don't think necessarily, unless you're like a boy band or something. Whereas I kind of wanted to have that, but still with all of my kind of other angles and my alternative interests and stuff. So I think just like
how much do you care about what people think about your music?
a lot less than I used to, but like, I make music for people, so I want them to get it. But I think I've just learned to accept that like that if someone's that it's obviously just not for some people, and I make music for the people that it's for, if you know what I mean. So
Right.
with that kind of mantra, I only really soak up the positive opinions, which works out quite well for me. Because I'm just like, well, if someone doesn't like it, then it's not for them. But generally speaking, I don't get too much hate on the internet or anything. So, but yeah, that probably
Were there any tracks where you were considering the audience before even putting it out or adding it to the album, or how it was going to be perceived by the public?
in like a negative light or a
Just
positive light?
in general, were you just like, I'm not sure, or how you were just saying, some people may or may not like the new material because of certain reasons? Was that limiting you in any way, or were you just like, fuck it, I don't give a shit?
It definitely wasn't limiting me on this record. I think there was a really pivotal moment, and it's funny that it ended up being like the most like successful thing that I've ever made. That was like the bit of I had this song called Be Around Me on my last record that went like super viral on TikTok. And the bit of the song that went viral was like the bit that I was getting this feeling of like, that's like too me to put in this song. Which is basically just like a kind of cute bit that made me laugh. It was just like a little breakdown chorus towards the end. And I remember the moment of being like, song doesn't really need it. Like I've already done like a verse, bridge, like verse, chorus, verse. We've done like this like long bridge section, and then to go into this other weird like alternative bridge, and then back into the chorus. I'm like, it's kind of like a rogue move, like. But I was so attached to like how that bit made me feel. Like it made me feel like really giddy, and like it summed up exactly like what the song was about. And I remember deleting it on one version and then not on another, and then almost sending by accident the other version and being like, this is the one I've been listening to loads, so I'll send that to Matt, see what he thinks. And that's what we ended up putting in. And then that was like the most like viral, like big thing that I've ever made, and like launched the whole track. So I think when I'd had that confirmation, I was just like, oh, being like more me, more authentic, more like unashamedly, like not scared of like people judging me, actually equates to like lots of people like loving it. So I think it's that like authenticity, or that like fearlessness, in a way, that there must be something in that that's magnetic, So I tried to like carry that mantra forward onto this record and just lean into whatever that is, like chase the guilty pleasures and like
Right.
yeah.
And what have you done to combat that fear and to become fearless? Is there anything that you were doing specifically or in your mindset? How did you come to that conclusion of just not giving a shit?
I think honestly, like probably like it's very difficult. I mean, often like your personal and professional life, especially with something as like emotional as music and as personal as music, like often overlap. I think it coincided with me like after that breakup. Like it felt like a bit of a rebirth of like, it's quite a common thing, isn't it? Like people after a breakup, you kind of rediscover yourself because you're no longer like molding it around another person or anything like that, or limiting certain elements of yourself. So I think it was definitely in the wake of that, and kind of just being like, well, none of how I was before really worked out that well. I got kind of fucked over there, ended up very unhappy, like I need to change. And then in terms of like actual practical little things that helped me through it, like I do stuff before I play on stage now, like before I perform live, that sounds a bit extra and a bit cheesy,
What
but
do you do?
I like just this is like just before I go on stage, so like the 5 minutes before, I just go I put my like in-ear monitors in. It's just like little in-ear headphones that kind of block out all sound other than what I will hear on stage. and turn off my pack. So I'm like in a little like fuzzy world. And then I'll just like go off into like a corridor of the venue or like a different bit or go outside or something. And then I just do like, say, I just have a conversation with myself, but like the most kind of lovey, like broy, big up conversation to myself where I'm just like,
Will, you're the coolest person that's
yeah,
ever existed. You can do
yeah.
this. I
It's
love
just,
you.
yeah, it's exactly that. It's just like, dude, when you walk in a room, like you light the whole place up. Like people
Right.
love you so much, like you're so cool and sexy, like you're gonna crush this.
You're so
Like,
cool and sexy. I love that. I mean, we all
yeah.
need to tell ourselves that we're sexy.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just like I said, it sounds ridiculous, but also the fact that it is kind of funny to say that puts me in a good mood for it as well. I'm just like, it gets me in like it's a little silly goose mood, you know.
I don't think
Like,
it's ridiculous at all. I think it's actually really enlightening. I think it's really cool that you do that.
yeah, no, it's good, and I think, for example, like I wouldn't have, yeah, a few years ago, I wouldn't have been like comfortable saying, even if I did do that in private, I'd be like embarrassed about it. Whereas now I'm like, I don't care, you know. But yeah, it's kind of hard to, don't know if you've had like similar things like this. It's kind of hard to put into words like where your like vibe shift was, but I think you just like, you stop care. Maybe it's like you stop caring because, again, you also realize like how limited like life is not incredibly long and you don't have like infinite chances to like get it right and like
Right.
enjoy yourself. And I think once you've gotten your own way enough times, you're like, well, I'm not going to do that anymore, you know, like that
Yeah,
didn't.
it didn't work. That wasn't working for me. So let me figure
Yeah,
out what is going to work for me.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
So would you say that this album is more of a personal journey for yourself?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I'd say it kind of explores like where I'm at now with um you know, like with relationships and like and love, and it talks about kind of like a younger teenage perspective. It like addresses some feelings of like, yeah, breakup and closure. And then like the last song is kind of a little bit existential and like looking forward as to like, it's kind of asking a lot of questions as to like what the hell like love is all about and what's the like purpose of it. um but yeah, no, I think all the best albums should be like personal. Like that's what I want to do with my music. And I think the stuff that I don't like that I've made in the past, you know, if I was going to be like, oh, I'm not really into that song, are the songs that don't really have any personal like
What
rap.
song are you thinking of when you say that? I'm serious. What song are you thinking of when you say that?
I'm probably thinking, I'm just thinking of, I I struggle to connect to stuff from, there's a few songs that I connect with from like when I was a teenager, but like, you know, like my first album and that era of songs that was a kind of a lot of, you know, I knew I wanted to make music and music was like a cool, fun thing that I did. And that like I really enjoyed as like a kind of like a skill and an activity and a feeling. But it wasn't as much kind of like rip your heart out and like put it in it and as this like very important like tool to understanding life. Like I wasn't quite there yet. So there would be songs where I'd be like, I know that song was just kind of fishing around for like cool words in that verse. Whereas this album, it's like you ask me about any of the lyrics, I'm like, oh, it's, you know, specifically about this at this point in time, and like that happened, and that's why I put that in, and it came to me at this point. You know, it's like a lot more meaty, and I think it's the songs that I did write when I was younger. There's like a song called Proof Enough off my second EP when I was like 17, I think. But like I love that song because it's just so lyrically like meaty and it means something. And like I remember how I felt when I wrote it. And I think the other things where you're maybe just trying to make like a bit of a banger or something, they fall a bit flat for me now. You know, it doesn't really mean anything.
Right. Do you feel that pressure of making that banger?
Not anymore. No, it's more like just a personal like in goal. You know, like I like making music that slaps, so I'm gonna I'm gonna make it slap. But then also I feel like the golden thing is to get the banger that like means something, you know. So that's what I was
Right.
going for on this record.
What music are you listening to right now that you would consider a banger besides
Like,
your own album, obviously?
trying to think. Let me just have a little. What was I literally listening to last on my Spotify? I was listening to an artist called Lava LaRue,
Okay.
Vest and Boxes. It's a really cool song. Kind of has like metronomy vibes. I don't know if you're into metronomy.
Send it to me.
And then yeah, I'll have to. And then also, I think she's an LA artist, Dora Jar. Do you know Dora Jar?
I have heard the name, but I don't think I've heard the music.
She's sick. It's kind of like new age Joni Mitchell or something, like Joni Mitchell, but like if Joni Mitchell was like put in with like hot shit producer with loads of like funky effects and stuff.
That sounds awesome. That really sounds sick. Yeah, DM
Yeah,
me that for sure.
It's dope.
What did you listen to growing up?
Growing up was like my dad has great music taste and like is definitely a big part of like how I got into music. There's like lots of like alternative stuff from like I was like born in 97, so there's like a lot of like Blur and Gorillaz, like the Damon Albarn Sphere. It was like early Coldplay, Beck, a band called Eels. Like Eels are like a massive part of it. Kind of like late Britpop stuff like Supergrass. Yeah, loads of stuff. Like and then the kind of like Bristol scene like Portishead, like Massive Attack, Fatboy Slim, like those like kind of dance records. And then
Awesome.
my mum would play stuff like Neil Young and Joni Mitchell and Barbra Streisand, stuff like that.
Oh, so you had like a variety. You had a good variety of music in your childhood.
Yeah, my dad's like a music snob / music fan, you know, like he's got his opinions and like specific tastes, you know, like he really enjoys like exploring and finding new music. So like even now it's like it's still like a big point of bonding for me and my dad, you know, if I find something cool I send it to him and vice versa, and it's kind of we're on the lookout for like a cool new band, and that's like always been how it is.
How involved is your family in your recording process? Are you sending your dad demos, or are you just like, oh, it's done, here's my album?
I involve my dad. I let my dad into it a little bit more this time around. Generally his opinions are not that helpful like in the process. I think just anyone who doesn't make music but loves music, like it's sometimes hard to communicate like the demo process, like
right,
you know. So
trust. Anytime I show anything to my family, I have to be like, it's not done. There's no automation here. There's no effects on the vocals, and they just don't get it. Is that a similar situation?
Yeah, basically. So that once I realized that they're like preempting with excuses and like doesn't work, I kind of was like, well, you know, I want to play things at more finished stages or at stages that I don't have to make excuses for. So it's either got to be super just guitar and vocal, or it's got to be something more finished. But to be fair, I think my dad, I moved back. I lost my house like at the beginning of the pandemic. Like I was moving house in London.
Oh my God.
The week the pandemic happened, and then like the woman who had the keys to the house was like in another country and stuck there. So like I was just like,
wait, what? How long did that last? You didn't have a home?
No, so I was staying with my parents for like a couple of weeks, whilst I was waiting to like do the house swap, you know. So my stuff was in storage, and then I was like waiting to move house. Rona happened, and then I was like one of those people as well. I was like, you know, scraping through Reddit like when it was still like just in Wuhan and like how crazy things were there, and I was like, nah, this is bad. Like this is gonna be a thing for a while.
Right.
So I tried to just get out of that contract as quickly as I could, and then I was like, it's cool, I'll like live with my parents for like a few months or something whilst this kind of happens. And then that just like turned into like a year. So I was I was living back with my family, and I think him them witnessing like my creative process was kind of helpful. They kind of understood like what went into it a bit more.
Right.
So I kind of like opened it back up a bit more, and my dad kind of enjoyed like hearing the journey of the songs coming together. But yeah, it's always difficult. Like you're saying, it's difficult to like playing stuff to family. You want them to like it. You want your parents to be proud of you, all that stuff. There's so much emotion wrapped up in it. You kind of have to be a little bit strategic, I think, with when you're ready to play stuff and like what you're expecting to get back from them from it and stuff like that.
How nervous do you get when you're sharing your music to your friends and family? Is that tell me about that?
Yeah, I think I'm usually like someone that's like chomping at the bit to show people. Like if I think it's sick, I'm like, oh, I'm excited to show this. So sometimes it can just be like, if they're not as excited as me, it's like the wind's taken out of my sails a little bit.
Right.
But, whatever. I like music's meant to be shared, and it's not meant to like live on my hard drive. So like,
Right.
yeah, I'm quite eager to play it to people, but
As long as they don't open their phone, that's
yeah.
when you know.
Yeah, that's the worst thing that could happen. I'd rather them listen and then slag it off afterwards than than just ignore it.
As a songwriter and producer, I like to ask this question because I don't think it gets asked enough. Do you have any favorite plugins that you use?
Favorite plugins? I don't like. This is this is not an exciting answer for you, but like I guess it's kind of interesting. Like my mantra with it is that like I leave a certain element. I leave like a certain bulk of the like production and finishing process
Right.
to the end, and that's the bit that I'm more collaborative on. And it's something that like I did have a phase when I was like pouring more into like no, I want to be like Kevin Parker vibes, and like from the inception of the writing of the song to like the finished like mix, I want to be able to like do all of it. But then I think that actually like took a lot out of the process for me. Like it took a lot of enjoyment out of it. And I wasn't making, I think I was writing worse, not just not that the production was worse or anything, but I was just like making worse music that way. Right. Because my priorities were like on the sonic so much rather than like the tune at hand. So like I tend to actually make a point of using like a very limited set of stuff, like quite vanilla recording process, so that I'm like, well, if it slaps like this, wait until it's got like some dope plugins on it, and like it's got all the like expensive reverbs and compressors and all this stuff. Then it's kind of like I can reinvigorate my excitement for the track again, and like,
right,
gets me gassed up. So like once I've finished the writing and arrangement process, or like got it out X amount along the way, then I can go in with like my buddy Matt or like whoever it is, and then that process is exciting again, where I'm like, okay, I know the track's about to like transform now, rather than getting this like demo-itis where I'm like hooked on my my Logic session, and it's like it doesn't sound like my Logic session anymore, and everything's wrong now, or like delays were like burying like bad parts, you know what I mean, stuff like that.
How do you get over demo-itis? Oftentimes I am very stuck on the demo, and it's not a fun process. Are you okay with going into the mixing and mastering part of it and sort of releasing some of the pieces of the song that are intact and letting it evolve?
I don't think you fully get over demo-itis. I think it's incurable. Like I don't know, like do you not get it when if you have like bad demo-itis, like you love the demo, you're always going to like the demo probably more than the thing you finished. I think like you're always going to have a big attachment to like whatever that bounce was of it. And like I definitely have had that bunch of tunes where I'm like, I just didn't manage to capture like whatever the magic I was hooked on that first thing. So that's kind of why I have this practice of like making sure that my demos stay as like raw as possible, so that they're just like songwriting files rather than productions to get stuck on, like sonics to get stuck on. So yeah, it's like this album, for example, I pretty much wrote entirely outside of music software. Like I was just like, I don't want to bury myself in my laptop for this. I'm just gonna write it all on guitar and keys on a piano and the guitar, and then I'll worry about like turning it into something else. So
You have a lo-fi cut.
Say that
How
again?
did that come to fruition? You have a lo-fi cut, like a remix.
Oh right, yeah. So my guitarist Benedict Quinn is like a really talented producer, and he's like a jazzer as well. And I just like really loved the beats that he was making. And when we were like on tour, we were jamming like kind of these like sexy lo-fi versions of the tunes just to like warm up. And I was like, damn, like this has like a vibe to it. We should totally, instead of doing like the classic thing, at least in the UK, you get like a remix, and remixes are always like dance music, and
right.
It's not really something that like I look forward to as a listener, like the dance remix of a indie pop song coming out. But I would be more interested in hearing like a lo-fi version of something. That would be really sick. So it was just like, what would be a cool like alternative release for this that's just gonna like showcase the song in a different light that like people that like my music would actually fuck with, So that was
is that something that sound something that you would bring into your actual sound, or is that just going to stay in a sort of a remix space?
I think so. I mean, we've been writing together, me and Ben, and like I really like the touch that he gives things. So I could definitely see pushing it more in that direction. Be cool to, I mean, it's like as a different, we have like a writing production duo that we do work for other people on. So like we might end up doing like an EP or something, and as that like duo, so as like a different alias. That could be kind of sweet for sure.
You have really awesome collaborators. Bertie Gilbert has been doing your videos for the last couple of years. Talk to me about that relationship, because there is such a strong aesthetic. How did you guys meet? How did you guys come together? Because it is very unique and it's very fun and interesting to watch.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, like I've been a fan of Bertie's like filmmaking for way too long. Like with the same age. We didn't grow up together or anything, but when I was in that kind of early SoundCloud phase that we were talking about, I was also like uploading like videos of me like playing. Like my friend had a DSLR camera, so we were like, okay, like we're filmmakers now. So
we're filmmakers now because we have a DSLR camera.
Yeah, we were like, it was like 2010, so
right,
around that kind of time. So just like the idea of uploading to YouTube was like the pinnacle of.
Oh, absolutely, and
you could
having a camera at that time was such a big deal.
Yeah, huge deal. So my friend Finn used to like film kind of vibey looking acoustic sessions. We would, try and find an interesting place, like get on the roof of my school at night or something and like film an acoustic session. So I was like active on YouTube, and Bertie Gilbert was like someone that I was subscribed to. Like he was big on YouTube as a kid. And he used to do kind of like artsy cool vlog stuff. And then he just like completely stopped doing vlogs and was like rejected the like YouTuber thing as it kind of in exact tandem with when YouTube was kind of corporatizing a bit, and you were getting these like huge stars like Alfie Days and stuff like that, like emerging out of the UK YouTube scene was like huge, like some really massive names.
Right. It was huge. I remember, that entire era was really just British influencers.
Yeah, literally. And like Bertie and Dodie were like people that I'd watched through that, and there's still like, that kind of social circle of people and creative circle like still exists now, everyone still kind of knows each other from, there's still a scene of creatives that we're all doing different things now, but people are like, YouTube days kind of thing. Um, and yeah, Bertie stopped doing the vlog thing a lot earlier than everyone else, just like kind of disappeared off that. And then from like 16, just started making like little independent films, like short films. And I remember hitting him up when I was 15 because I saw like one random video he posted with someone, like he filmed someone doing an acoustic session on his channel. I was like, I remember messaging him like when I had like no fans or like no anything, just being like, dude, I want to come on your thing, like I love your stuff. Da, 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 da. Never got back to me. And then understandably, and like years later, he like followed me like when I was like getting close to put my first album out, and he just kind of discovered my music like a fan would or something. And we kind of I already followed him, and we kind of connected over DMs. And then I started a podcast called Bad Hotel, which is now like my label that I released through. So like kind of creative like umbrella that I put over everything. And he was a guest on that, and that was like the first time we hung out in person. And then we're just good mates. Like we got on really well. I think he's like really smart and funny, and he's just like a great guy to be around. So
You have a lot of great fashion in your music videos.
thanks.
Can you tell me about your relationship with fashion?
My relationship with fashion. Well, like when you're saying you get shown like pictures from a few years ago on your phone, and you're like being shown like your worst era. Like that's a thing I feel a lot. So I don't feel like I've dressed like well historically, but I've always just tried to dress like a little bit different, or like what I deem like, I was like as a teenager just wanted to be like indie alternative. So I just like wear the goofiest stuff to just try and be a little bit different. But now I'd say like the kind of fashion that I fuck with the most is like Korean, Japanese, like casual wear, streetwear, like how they've appropriated like Western style clothing as well, and like the flavors they brought to it is just like
so way more innovative, unique cuts.
Yeah.
It's just
this shirt I got in Seoul, weirdly. So yeah.
Wow. When were you in Seoul?
I've been twice, but I was last there in 2018. I played a festival called Green Plugged, and yeah, the fashion district in Seoul is just like
I can't imagine. I love fashion. I really want to go really bad.
Yeah, it's so good. It's like it genuinely gave me like I didn't quite know what to do, because I'm used to walking around London and just being a bit like, like I can't find like the places that sell the clothes I want are just like ridiculously expensive, or they just have like a couple items that I actually like in there and then nothing else. Whereas like this is like every shop in Seoul that I was going into, I'm just like,
I want everything.
I want that, and it's just like I could like next time I go, I like regret not buying more because I still love everything I have from there. So like I'm just gonna plan like a clothing trip or something.
That sounds like a dream for me. Yeah. Absolutely, a clothing trip, just buying shit. Oh my god.
Yeah, just going to be styled would be so dope. Like I'm ready to like burn my wardrobe if someone was like, let's hook you up with like all new like stuff from Seoul. I'd be like, yep, cool.
Are you a fan of K-pop?
I don't know huge amounts of about it, but I find it great whenever I listen to it. Like I'm definitely not like immersed in like the K-pop world or anything, but yeah, it's great.
Fashion is sick.
Like that part of the world like really fascinates me.
So we talked a lot about music videos and film, but we didn't talk about your favorite films. What sort of content are you watching? Are you watching anything in particular right now where you're like, oh, damn, this is my show?
I'm not like a big...
You're not
like,
a big TV guy?
No, I don't really... Not that I don't enjoy it. It's just more like committing to the... Like, I feel like I have the same conversation about every series. People are like, oh my God. And I guess like series 4 when the show gets really sick. And everyone's like, oh, so amazing right now. So good. Like every episode's amazing.
Yeah, it takes a long time sometimes for like really awesome shows to get into their groove.
Yeah, exactly. And then they're like, you should start it. And I'm like, what's... And they're like, season 1 and 2 is like it's like, okay. And I'm like, what? So I have to watch literally like 20 hours of stuff before it gets good. So I always find that a bit daunting because I don't really commit from the early stage. But I mean, I love great films, like films are like a point of inspiration for my music as well. Like there's a film called Blue Jay, which is like my favorite film ever. That's like a big inspiration for that track, The Feels, on my record, just because it explores like the theme of closure in like such an amazing, like an emotional way, and it's just like an absolute like blubber. You know what I
So
mean?
you
Like,
need a good theme. You
yeah.
need a good message.
I generally like songs that are films that are about that feel very real. You know what I mean? That the way that you kind of forget you're watching a movie. You're just like experiencing, like, feels like you're watching a real person's life. Like I loved that film Three Billboards. I thought that was really dope.
Right.
Good Times with Robert Pattinson. That's really, really good. That's like one of my favorites. Uncut Gems was great as well. Really
Uncut
enjoyed.
Jams.
Yeah.
I just had to do it. I just had to do the Uncut
Yeah.
Jams thing.
It's good though. Like what kind of movies you fuck with?
Me, I like all types of movies. I am a filmmaker, so a diverse array of films really. I just watched Everything Everywhere All at Once last night for the
Oh,
first
I
time.
saw that as well. Yeah, yeah.
Beautiful and so fun and funny and just taking from so many genres, and it all just was tied together so well. And it was great to see an all Asian cast really killing it. And I really, really enjoyed it. And
Yeah.
it just makes me think. It really does make me
Yeah.
think, like, what the fuck is this? You know?
Yeah, I had multiple like existential thoughts throughout that where I'd almost like drifting off for a second, being like, and then, like thinking about the universe or like when I'm gonna die or something like that. But I mean, yeah, I need to do research on that because I thought the same thing when I was watching it. It was just like really refreshing. It felt like a very kind of like authentic perspective in the film. So I'm like interested to like see who the writers are and people behind it and stuff like that.
Right. Do you think we're in a age of an art renaissance due to the pandemic? Are you feeling that? Do you think that creators are becoming more creative? Are you seeing that?
I've definitely been there's definitely been projects and things I've seen that I have made me feel that. I think what needs to happen for it to continue is just like this breakdown of like the typical like gatekeepers and stuff. I worry. I think something that was really cool that happened throughout the pandemic was everything had to happen online, and like the online space is a very democratized one. Like currently, like apps like TikTok and the audiences on them are very like savvy to when things are like bought and when things are organic. Um, so I think, yeah, there was definitely and still is like a really cool movement of just stuff that should break through because it's great, not because it's like had enough that there's too much at stake for it to fail kind of thing, and there's a whole industry behind it or whatever. So
Right.
I just hope that as things kind of return to like the new normal or whatever, that the gatekeepers continually are getting like pushed to the side, and the connection between like artists and the audience just gets more and more direct. So like the less people have to like convince other entities for funding, and they can just get the funding themselves or
Right.
making
The
things.
decentralization of social media.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm for that, and I find it really hilarious when people are scared of it, because usually the people complaining about these kind of like new age like ways of releasing and promoting music or media are the people who have self-worth or like actual worth, like money or whatever, and like assets like tied up in things staying the same. So if someone is massive in traditional media, they're not going to be a big fan of new media, because that means traditional media is not cool anymore, and that's not the thing. So I find it funny when it's always, you don't hear the people that have done well out of like the new things being like they're terrible. It's just like people who are doing well out of it love it. The people who are not doing well out of it say it's the worst thing that's happening to music ever.
Traditional
Whereas,
media is dying,
yeah, for
and
sure.
it's a thing that's happening. And if those companies don't evolve, then they dissolve.
Yeah, I think, and I just hope that I kind of don't want them to evolve there. That's more my point. Like, I want just something new to reflect to come in,
Right, right.
rather
Yeah,
rather than
exactly.
having to like retrofit everything. Like sometimes a platform is no longer relevant anymore, and a new one is doing better, or like this way of consuming media is just like not cutting the mustard anymore. So like we have a new way of doing it now. So yeah.
What is your relationship with social media?
Um, it's I'm definitely not like super stoked about it all the time. Like I, for example, like I took a break from making like content. I was like really on it on my last record over 2020, and then to be able to write this new record, I had to take time out really from it, and I took like 4 months off fully, and I think that was like a really good thing to do, and I think more people should do that. I think there is just like a pressure that if you stop doing it, you suddenly become irrelevant or something. But I think people are maybe a little bit too afraid of that happening, and they think it's going to happen over the course of like 2 months, whereas it's more like 2 years that I would need.
It is kind of interesting. If you are off social media, you are really disconnected from an entire culture that is happening while you are not on it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The FOMO is strong, but and also it's kind of like so much of life is based around it now. Genuinely think it would be like, well, what do I do? Because everyone else is on it as well. It's like there's a lot of fun to be had online, and finding fun in the real world maybe a bit more difficult now. So, but yeah, I mean, I definitely consistently fantasize about disappearing for like 6 months, going
Right.
traveling and not having social media, and that just sounds absolutely marvelous to me. So,
There's
but
been a lot of conversation with artists and their labels pushing them to create viral moments on TikTok, which you've had with your
yeah,
music. Do you feel the pressure of creating a viral moment for your new album?
yeah, definitely. I mean, they just like it creates such a fun and exciting like buzz around what you're doing. So like I think everyone wants them. Whether I would be like, oh, I failed if I don't get one, I don't think I would feel like that. It's more just like that is a really potent way to like reach people at the moment, and that's like how it's done. But yeah, I think it's important to like look back with things like this. Especially, I'm like really hesitant to complain about it, because complaining about it kind of feels a little bit just like complaining about having to promote music. It's just like the way that music is promoted at the moment. So it kind of reminds me of like people being like, oh, man, I just don't want to, people just writing for radio now, like a few years back. And then someone in the 1980s would have been like, well, we have to make videos now. Like, I thought this was about
Right.
music. I'm a musician. I'm not like, I don't want to have to like, put makeup on and like do a little dance for you on camera. Like the people would have got righteous about that back then. They're getting righteous about TikTok now. I'm just like, well, don't put your music out. Like,
Right. I mean, this is such a great attitude to have, because there are so many musicians who are just don't want to even think about marketing when it comes to their music.
yeah. Yeah, well, it's like I was saying just a minute ago. It's like find me an artist that's had TikTok blow them up and change their whole thing. Like, how do they feel about it? And then find me someone who is established but hasn't had a viral hit yet. And how do they feel about it? They're gonna feel like a bit insecure that they haven't had one, and the other person's gonna think it's amazing because they have had one. You know what I mean? It's just I think it's one of those things where people are definitely feeling insecure when they don't have these viral hits, especially like established artists. Like if I was a really big artist that, you know, had like millions of followers and my song didn't go viral, and then I watched like a 15-year-old from, you know,
Wherever.
who's just in high school, like,
Yeah.
and they just put it up and it just like blows up, then yeah, your ego is gonna take a blow. But like me personally, yeah, I wouldn't, because I just be like, that's how the internet works. You know, like people, the story of the 15-year-old is more exciting than the story of the established millionaire A-lister that can't get the thing, you know. So yeah, I think
Would you say that being an artist this day and age, you have to have the other technical side for anything to work?
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I'd say like it depends what your ambitions are. Like for pop, like 100%. Yeah, just like how are you gonna cut through without it? Like this is the language that people are using to communicate music right now. This is like
It is a
how
new
things.
language. It is a new
Yeah,
language.
I think there'd be a new way to do it, but I don't think it would be in the physical world. Like I'm not saying that like, oh, you know, viral smash is like on TikTok is like the only way to do it. There'll be something else. Like there'll be something, you know, some other cool ways that scenes can bubble up and small but more potent, meaningful fan bases can grow. But I don't think it's like, I don't think it's happening like outside.
Well, one way of building fans is touring.
Yeah, this is true, and that's like always going to be valuable. Like people having like.
Tell me about your upcoming shows.
So I'm coming to the States and touring for like the first time,
Woo!
which is amazing. So I'm
Yeah.
on tour with an artist called Tessa Violet, who is currently my guardian angel because she's taking me on tour, and I love her for that so much.
When does tour start?
Tour starts, it's in September. It's just all through the month of September. I think the first show is at the very end of August, I think. But we're going all over the country, like almost every state, I think. So yeah.
Well, we got to hang out when you come to LA.
For sure. I'm playing, what's it called? It's like on Miracle Mile, like near LACMA.
You're playing the El Rey.
El Rey, that's it.
That's what you're playing. That's awesome. That's a good venue. That's a fun venue to play at.
Yeah, it's just round the block from where I recorded the album as well. So kind of crazy.
How do you like LA or the States in general?
Yeah, I mean, I like LA. I like LA. I mean, all positive memories of it because whenever I go there, I'm making music and having a great time when I'm out there. Whereas I think if I didn't work in music, probably wouldn't enjoy it. I think it's quite a like bewildering place. I think for a European person as well, like it does not function anything like a European city, like whatsoever. Like it's not laid out in a way that feels familiar or that welcoming to explore. I think it's very much like where, you know, you can't just pick an area and then be like, I'll have like a walk around for like 2 hours. You know, I'll just like pick a direction and like immerse myself in the city. You know, like if you're in Amsterdam or Barcelona, you'd be like, okay, everything's concentrated into this area, and you'd go around and
you really got to drive. You drive.
You do a little bit of shopping. You pop into another thing. You get coffee somewhere. Whereas like LA is kind of like travel 3-4 blocks and then you're at the next thing and then we're at the next thing, and if you walk sometimes people just think you're insane, and you are often sometimes genuinely at risk if you walk. So yeah.
Do you have your set list for tour?
I have a set list, but I want to add new songs to it, definitely. So I've been playing a lot of the new record, but I want to play even more, I think, on this Tessa tour to just like really show it off.
This has been really fun talking to you.
Yeah, same.
Where can everybody find you?
I am pretty much I'm easy to find. I'm just at Will Joseph Cook, my artist name, everywhere except TikTok. Will Joseph
Amazing.
TikTok. So, yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being on Nefarious. This has been so much fun talking to you. Make sure everybody who's listening, make sure you go follow Will. All of his social media will be in the description. And we'll be talking to him soon. When are you releasing your next single?
So there's a single. So the album is literally out on Friday, and the lead track of that, the single of it, is called Gummy.
Right.
So yeah, everyone go check out Gummy.
Everyone go check out Gummy.
Check out Gummy. Check out the
Well,
whole album. Slaps. You're gonna love it.
it really does slap, you guys. Thank you guys so much for listening. Make sure you guys go follow Will everywhere, and we'll be back in the next episode. Peace.
Peace.